Hi everyone, my name is Patria Smith, and today I would like to share with you my oral history interview that I did on my husband, Witt. When many people think of New York, they often think of the Empire State Building or the New York Times Square. But if you lived in New York during the 1980s, you would probably think of the low poverty, the drugs, and the violence. When I asked former New York native Ty what was it like in New York, and which part of New York was he from and spent most of his life in? He answered back, the South Bronx. He was the middle child of 4 children, and he was raised by his mother, who was a single parent. He said during his childhood he faced many of the evictions that many other New York natives face, and he was often moving from place to place. They never had a stable place. He said he will often find his belongings outside and even witness people going through his belongings. I couldn't imagine that. But this only pushed him to work hard for what he wanted in life. I asked him to name some of the epidemics that he faced during his adolescent years in New York. He named 2 of them. Although he faced many of the epidemics, these 2 stood out and affected his family the most. Those were the Reaganomics and the crack epidemic. The Reaganomics refers to the policies promoted by former President Ronald Reagan during the 1980s. This was a reduction of government funding. This left many people without jobs, without homes, and it even left people without the lack of education. Of course, this affected Ty's family very hard, or very deeply, because his mother was a single parent. She was unable to provide for her children the way she wanted to without the help of the government. Another epidemic that he went through and affected his family deeply was the crack epidemic. He said the crack epidemic was when crack was king. There was an increase in the addicts, and there was an increase in the murder rate, and there were lack of police around. This had to be very hard. He said he witnessed family and friends become addicts. This had to be hard for him because to have your family, act one way and then see them the next day and just overdose on crack, it had to affect him deeply. But throughout it all, he was very strong and he made it. He also included how he witnessed many dead bodies in alleys because they had became overdosed from the crack. I also asked Ty, name some of the good things that he gained from living in New York. He told me there were some good things that he gained from New York. I was very happy to hear that. Some of them were knowledge, to know himself, and introduction to hip hop. He said that he would go to concerts every week and see many of the big celebrities we know today. He also said, as far as the knowledge, he would spend most of his time in libraries and just read many books to escape from what was going on around him. Later on, he also used an escape by joining the army just to get out of New York. During the interview, I noticed that the last question about the good things that he learned or that he gained from New York, that brought a smile to his face. This made me very happy. I'm so happy to hear that he made it through those tough times and that he even made many accomplishments to include being a father and his nurse career. Well, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my speech. Bye.